Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the January 6th edition of Horses to Watch, where I highlight some horses to follow and potentially bet back based on their trips, walk you through some of the trip handicapping process. Hopefully we can make some scores in future weeks. I usually focus on New York races when I do the show, or the racing at Aqueduct right now. I think I've been doing a trio or a quartet of races from Aqueduct on the last two episodes of this show. This week we're going to hop around the country a little bit. I'll show one race from Aqueduct, then we'll move down to Florida at Gulfstream. We'll end things out in California at Santa Anita. The theme of the show this week, though, is maiden races, and we're going to kick things off with actually a maiden claiming race at Aqueduct from last Friday, the New Year's Day card. This was race 2, a race for New York breds, $40,000 claiming tag, going 7 furlongs on the main track. And I want to start things off by showing the head-on of the start of this race. We can break them from the gate, and I want to focus on the number 5 horse, Ghost, Ghost, Ghost. And you can see what happens right here. She's the horse with the white blaze and the blinkers, and she just gets completely sideswiped by the number 6. Now we're picking up the pan shot here, and you see because of getting bumped so badly at the start, she's put all the way at the back of the pack here. And that's particularly detrimental to this filly, because if you look at her prior races, she's run her best when she's been forwardly placed, and in this race, there didn't look to be much speed on paper, so she actually projected to be the speed. That was never going to happen with the kind of start that she had, so she's racing at the back of the pack down the backstretch. You see the fractions going up. The pace of this race was not fast, as it was predicted to be pretty moderate, so it's even worse that she's towards the back of the pack given the pace scenario. And on top of all of that, on this Friday card, we saw a lot of wire-to-wire winners, horses that were up close to the front, really dominated in every race. So given that speed bias situation, really ghost, just, and everything stacked against her in this race. Coming around the far turn here, you see the Kendrick Carmouche is trying to motivate her, get her to move past some rivals, to make a move up into contention, but it's just difficult to do that in a race where, as you can see, nobody else is really making up any ground from the back of the pack, and the horse that had the early lead, the number 7 Bonus Baby, she's going to run away from this field and win. Ghost, to her credit, she stays on pretty well. She gets up into 4th here, never really is a threat to the top 2, but all things considered, she ran a decent buyer speed figure, I think in the low 40s, not that much worse than what she had been running. I think she would have done a lot better in this race had she had that clean break and gotten the kind of trip that she was predicted to. This was her first start off a trainer switch for Tom Morley. I think she was heading in the right direction prior to this, so if she comes back at a similar level next time, I think she's going to be pretty tough. Let's now move down to Florida to discuss a race at Gulfstream Park. This is one from their Saturday card. It's race 8, maiden special weight event, going 1.16 miles on the turf course. And this was a race that featured a lot of nice pedigrees, some horses that were racing on turf for the first time, some first-time starters, but I think it could be a key race moving forward. The top 2 certainly are ones with ability, but I want to focus on a horse that finished a little farther back. Let's break them from the gate, and we're going to look at the number 10 horse, El Socio. And you can see coming out of the starting gate, this horse breaks slowly, leaps up a little bit at the start, and then gets steadied in behind the number 9 horse, who comes right out into his path a few strides out of the gate. That's just a disastrous beginning in any kind of race, but especially for a first-time starter that's already a little bit green and inexperienced, just not the way you want to have a horse's debut begin. And things just get worse from here, because towards the front of the pack, you're going to see these fractions start to go up. They are not moving very fast at all. And the 2 horses that are going to dominate this race and complete the exacta are the horses who are in 1st and 2nd right now. The number 12, Win From Within, is the eventual winner. And the number 5, Floriform, will finish 2nd. See that opening quarter going up in 25 and 1/5 seconds. They're not moving very fast at all on the lead in this race, which is why there's really not a whole lot of running from the back going on. El Socio is obviously way off the screen right now. He was last heading around that clubhouse turn, and he'll come into the screen later in the race. But while we're looking at the leaders in the pack, I'll just mention this horse actually has some pedigree. Going out for Armando de la Cerda, he was a cheap yearling purchase, or rather 2-year-old purchase, but he's a half-brother to Bob and Jackie, who is a pretty good horse out in California, a multiple stakes winner, so he's bred to be a decent turf runner, and I think he shows some sneaky turf ability here, even though he still finishes far back in this race. Now, coming around the far turn here, on the right of your screen, you're going to see in those blue silks, El Socio with that shadow roll. He's going to come into your screen now, swinging about 4 wide for the stretch drive here, and he's actually picking up some real steam coming off the far turn here, and passing horses horses in a race where there's not a whole lot of running going on from the back of the pack. You see these top two horses who were the leaders early, they're going to just run away from this field through the stretch of this race. But El Socio keeps on coming, and as they come past the wire, notice that he's the horse that gets up into fourth here in a photo, just a length out of third place. I thought that was a pretty nice performance for a horse that had all that trouble that he did at the start that was against the pace of this race. He finishes pretty well, all things considered, and I think he's one that could have a future on the turf if he gets a cleaner start next time out. Let's finish things up with a race from Santa Anita. This is going back to their Sunday card, race 6, a maiden special weight, going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt course. I want to focus on the eventual winner of this race, the number 5, Roman Centurion. Let's break these horses from the gate, and there's really not a trip or any adversity that this horse had. That's not the reason that I'm highlighting this horse. I don't often do this, but I just think this is a horse that you want to be aware of as a horse with real talent that's going to make his presence felt potentially even on the Derby trail and some stakes races down the line. He will win this race and do it impressively. In the early going, though, you can see he doesn't have a whole lot of speed. He's in behind horses here with taking a ton of kickback in those maroon silks in about the 2 path towards the back of the pack here. He runs a pretty professional race here, though, for a horse that's coming from off the pace. This was just his second career start. He had debuted in a pretty live race in November at Santa Anita when he finished behind the eventual sham winner, Life is Good. That maiden race is proving to be a key one, as Life is Good obviously came back to win. And also the runner-up from that race came back to win impressively at Santa Anita against Maiden Company last week. And now Roman Centurion is the third winner out of that race. He was fourth that day, but just going 6.5 furlongs. Now stretching out an extra 2 furlongs here. I think the added distance really helped him. Coming to the half-mile pull here, his rider Juan Hernandez has now swung him to the outside, and he's going to launch this wide, sustained move past horses, and he just keeps on coming as he's asked to go here. He's coming around horses here. The number 2, who is the favorite here, Du Jour, is making an early move to the front end. He's one who actually ran pretty well within the context of this race, but as they come to the top of the stretch, you're going to see that he will be no match for this full head of steam that Roman Centurion builds up. They get to the quarter pole here. This horse switches over to his right lead, and just look at the way he levels off through the lane here. I really love the way this horse finished off the race, like he's going to want even more ground than 1 mile and a 16th in the future. He's idling a bit once he gets to the front, but his rider gets into him here, and he's going to power away from this field through the final 1/8 of a mile. And if we can roll this race a little bit on the gallop out, you're going to see he continues to move away from this field into the clubhouse turn. And by the time that he's galloped out about a furlong, he's opened up some 10 to 12 lengths on this field. This is a horse that just didn't want to stop running at the end of this race. Now, I'm saying that he might be an eventual Derby contender because not only was this an impressive maiden victory, but he got an 80 buyer for this race, a 1:08 time form US speed figure. That says that he doesn't have to improve that much to eventually compete against Stakes Company in the coming months, and he's really bred to appreciate extra ground. He's by Empire Maker, who's a real stamina influence, and on the dam side, he's actually got a real Phipps pedigree. His second dam is that multiple grade 1 winner for the Phipps, his Finder's Fee from the 90s. His dam is out of her, and while she hasn't produced much yet, I think she's got a good full in Roman Centurion. Trained by Simon Callahan, who knows how to handle a good horse. I think we could see this one in Stakes Company next time if they don't find an M1X allowance race to go, but I have high hopes for this one as he stretches out in distance in the future. Those are all the horses to watch for this week. Remember that if you want to follow these horses in the future, I would recommend that you add these horses to a list on DRF Watchmail. Just open an account on DRF.com. It's a free feature to follow these horses. You can add them to your list. You'll get email notifications when they work out, when they're entered, when there are results. That's how I like to follow these horses when they run back in the future. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Horses to Watch, and make sure to keep an eye out for future episodes on Wednesdays.